Welcome, warriors. Today I want to talk to you about the manual. What is a manual? Did you know we all have them? Even I do, and so do you. I want to give you the definition of what a manual is. A manual is an instruction guide that we have for someone in our lives about how we would like them to behave. We have this so that we can feel good about and be happy. We can feel good and be happy. We generally don't tell other people what's in our manual, and we usually don't even realize that we have it, or we see the pain it causes us. We feel that the other person should just know what to do and how to treat us. While it may seem justified to have these expectations for other people, it can be very damaging when your emotional happiness is directly tied to somebody else behaving a certain way. We have manuals for our husbands and our significant others and our children and people that we, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers. We have manuals for all relationships in our lives. I want to give you an example. We're going to call her Rebecca. Rebecca hates her ex-husband, and she blames him for everything that has ever happened in her life. She says that she would be successful and wealthy had it not been for him. He is the reason that she has no money and no happiness. Rebecca has been divorced for 20 years. She's still giving this man power for her emotional life. She's letting her story about him and who he was and who he should have been to her cause her to be miserable. She has been dedicated to hating him and feeling that hate each and every day for more than 20 years. So can you see how having this manual on her ex-husband and not forgiving him is causing her own pain, because that's what she's thinking about. Many people have manuals that stem from the belief that they would be happier if somebody else in their life behaved a certain way, acted a certain way, did certain things. One of the most powerful things that you will ever learn is that that's not true. We should never put our happiness or our emotions in someone else's hands. Other people's behavior should not have an impact on us emotionally until we think about it, interpret it, and choose to make it mean something. So no matter what people do, how they act, or what they say, we don't give the power to them to determine how we feel. I want to give you some examples about manuals that we have for people. Some common manual instructions could be: she should call me back when I call her. She should remember my birthday. She should invite me when she has a party. She should write me a thank you note. She should be kind and understand when I'm frustrated. She should support me. She should listen to me as long as I listen to her. She should ask me to be a bridesmaid, a godmother, etc. He should tell me he loves me. He should buy me something special on my birthday. He should know what I like. He should be emotionally available to me. He should want to go to the movies that I like. He should make more money. He should spend less time at work. He should spend more time with the kids. He shouldn't watch so much football. And he should take out the garbage without having to be asked. Did you know these are manuals that we have for people? These examples are simple and brief. But the truth is that most manuals are pages upon pages thick. They're complicated, intricate, and detailed. Rather than sharing these expectations with your loved one, with the person you're in a relationship with, it may not even necessarily be a loved one. It could be, the Starbucks worker. You expect them. We have manuals for everybody we come in contact with our life. Here's the problem with the manual. We don't give our manual to the other person. We keep it to ourselves. And like I said, when I was reading some of these examples, she should call me back when I call her. Well, it's an expectation you have, a manual that you wrote. When you call your friend, you expect them to call you back. And if they don't, then you're affected by that. So adults have the ability and freedom to behave however they choose. That's the glorious thing about being an adult, is you get to choose how to respond or react when a situation or circumstance happens. There's nothing that you ever have to do, and there's nothing anyone else has to do for you. When common practice in couples therapy is that when two people sit down and discuss what's happened, and then they share what the other one needs, the other person can work to meet them. The problem is that it creates the manual set up for disaster. The truth is that each of us is responsible for meeting our own needs. God's word tells us to lean on Him. We should never put our faith in another human because they're human. And if we don't tell them what our needs are or what our expectations are, how can they ever fulfill them? So when you start to assume that somebody knows what's in your manual, that's the first mistake that we make. Although you may have some positive thoughts and feelings at times, they're not going to be able to do all the things in your manual that you've asked them to do. When you subscribe to manuals, you put your emotions in the hands of other people. And if the other people in your lives don't follow the manual that you wrote for them, because they usually don't, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be upset. You're going to be angry. You're going to be hurt. You're going to be frustrated. Or maybe you'll be happy or excited or exuberated. Whatever that emotion is, remember, your thoughts control your emotions. Now, how do you let go of that manual? The best first steps to realize that these manuals are based on other people is to recognize the benefit of taking responsibility for your own rules by creating a personal operating manual for yourself. So not only do we have manuals for other people, but let's create a manual for ourselves. The truth is that most of us cannot even control or manage ourselves, and yet we want to control and manage other people, right? So it's somewhat ridiculous. Controlling our own behavior is challenging enough, but trying to control other people is inevitably, both parties are usually going to be ineffective. So once you acknowledge that you've got a manual on how you want the person in your life to behave, you'll want to explore how to maybe do things a little differently. The answer is always that they think if the other person changes their behavior, they will feel better. However, we know that the other person's behavior doesn't control our feelings. Ever. What somebody does doesn't control your feelings. It's your thought about what they did. So it's only our thinking that affects how we feel. Remember my formula that we teach. You've got circumstances and you have thoughts, and we're really going to focus on the circumstances and the thoughts today. The circumstance is this manual that we have for people, and then we have what we think about it. So the person likes me and cares about me, and that's what might cause you to feel good. When someone doesn't follow your manual and you interpret it negatively, you feel bad. We don't take responsibility for how we feel. We give that power away to somebody else based on their behavior. So remind yourself that if you want someone else to behave differently so that you can feel better, in the end, it's not possible, because other people's actions cannot dictate their feelings. These new thoughts can help you take a deep breath and stop trying to control other people. So take responsibility for how you feel regardless of other people's behaviors. This is an empowering way to live. I promise you, this is what God wants us to do. He wants us to be responsible for ourselves and love others. Rip up these manuals that you have wrote for other people. Now, there is a difference if you're a parent or a boss. A big difference. If you're a parent, you're going to have expectations for your children. And if you're a boss, you've got expectations for employees. And this is kind of going to go into, you've got boundaries that you set up for your children and your teaching, and same with the boss. For example, you may tell your child that she's expected to make her bed every day. And if she doesn't, that there's going to be some consequences. It's appropriate, and how can you teach your child a habit you want her to develop? You wouldn't say, if you don't make your bed, it's going to hurt mommy's feelings. We don't talk like that, right? When people do function in this way, we call it emotional blackmail. And it's not a healthy way to manage children or manage people in general. So if you're a manager at work, you can set very clear expectations and you can provide feedback. If the employees don't honor your request and they don't follow through on what you've asked them to do, you get to decide. You get to decide whether to keep on working with them or to end the relationship or to put them on some type of probation. You get to choose. You don't have to be upset about it. The Bible talks about self-control and anger and a lot of these other emotions. So instead of reacting a lot of times, stop, pause, pray. Final thoughts. Perhaps you want your friends to call you once a week and on your birthday. Perhaps this is your friendship manual. In most cases, you probably don't share this manual with your friends. I know I didn't. It's just an expectation you have and you think is understood. When your friends don't honor this, you might feel frustrated and let them know that they hurt your feelings by not calling you. This sets you up for more frustration and drama. The alternative is that you have friends, but you allow them to be who they are. If they call you, great. If they don't call you, great. You don't give them the power. See what I'm saying? You can just love people like God commanded us. Enjoy who they are and not have any manuals for them. which can be a very freeing way to live, I promise you. When I ripped up my manuals, and I still struggle from time to time, and I have to realize, okay, it's because I have this expectation, I have this manual, how I think they should behave. I had a situation even with, there was a young lady at the house the other day, and she was telling me her story, and I was honest with her. I said, you know what? I want you to fix this so I can feel better. Because I was sad, because she was sad. And so I thought, how selfish of me. This was not about me, this was about her. And I realized that my sadness and wanting her to do something, I had to change my thinking there. And instead, I turned it to God. So start with yourself. When we release all the rules and all the expectations we have, and we listen to the other person and we hear what's going on for them, our relationships can change for the better. We can start understanding them from a different perspective that isn't clouded by our own thinking and our own expectations. Think about someone in your life and the 3 things that you would want that person to do that would make you feel good. Can you think of 3 things? Can you think of one person right now that if they would just change those 3 things, you would feel better? Maybe you wish that your husband was more romantic and you think it would be so awesome if he wrote you love notes, bought you flowers, or planned a romantic surprise vacation. Perhaps you wish your friends would call you more often or be more available to you. Or maybe it's your relationship with your father or your mother and you'd like to see a change. Perhaps you wish they would offer more help or show more interest in your children, or even that they were around less to give you more space. How about that, right? Once you have someone in mind, I want you to write down things ideally you want this person to do. Next, consider what you think and how you feel if this person did these things voluntarily and happily. Remember, all your feelings are going to come from your thoughts. All of them. So what would you be thinking if this person behaved in line with the way you want them to behave? Really think about it. Can you identify with the main thought? Can you think those good things about this person without what's on your list? So what I'm asking you to do is, you've got this person, you've got 3 things. If my husband would send me flowers, call me and ask me how my day was, can you think about him if they didn't do those things and be happy? Because that's what I'm getting at. You can feel better on your own. You get to decide. I'm not going to make my life about the way I believe I'm entitled to be treated. So let me say that again. I'm not going to make my life about the way that I believe I'm entitled to be treated. The only thing I'm entitled to is taking care of my own emotional needs, my own brain, to make sure that I'm thinking the thoughts that God wants me to think. So if you really want something done, you must make sure and do it with yourself and the Lord. At times you may need to ask yourself, why are you not willing to work on it? Also, consider, if you really want someone else to do something that they don't want to do, the next example further illustrates this point. Okay, this was good. Melissa was frustrated because she didn't want dog poo in her backyard, and she didn't want to clean it up, and neither did her husband. She felt it was unfair for her to have to go and clean up the dog poop all the time. The husband didn't care about it. So now we have a backyard full of dog poop and even more mess in the relationship. Often when she asks him over and over again to do something, does this relate to something in your life where you've asked somebody to do something over and over and over again and they still won't do it? And then when he does it, she's still frustrated because he didn't do it because he wanted to. She'll need to let go of this manual. She needs to let go. She can still request and make requests for her husband. We can still ask our friends and our spouses and our relationships to do things. But she needs to let go of the manual by interpreting it. Just because he didn't have a problem with the dog food didn't mean he didn't love her, didn't mean he didn't respect her, didn't mean any other negative emotion. It personally just didn't bother him. So she would benefit really from thinking about the things she wants to have done and how she wants other people to behave. It is truly possible to let go of all your rules, all your regulations, and all your attempts to control people in your life. Consider letting these things go and making requests if you want to, but only with no strings attached. So it's okay to make a request, but there's no strings attached. Generally notice what people do when they don't try to control them. Notice what they do when you don't try to control them. If you focus on trying to only control yourself and your responses and how other people behave, what do you imagine your life would look like if you only focused on you and changing your behavior? In your personal relationships, it's much easier to let go of our manuals because we have to start letting people just be who they are. When we don't try to take control of others, they feel safe to be themselves. And this is what authentic, intimate relationships are made of. We can be much calmer when we don't make others' actions mean something negative, and we can also really hear them out. We can get their perspective on things, hear their side of the story, and understand why they do or don't do what we've requested. This is much more effective than pounding our fist at the manual. So I want to encourage you today to seriously take a look at the manuals that you may have wrote for people in your lives. Is there a human in your life that you just wish would change so that you can be happy? Take your power back. Change yourself and let them be who God created them to be. Have a blessed day.